Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Viktor Frankl. Amidst the ever-shifting currents of life, some serenely walk through tempests with a tranquil smile, while others collapse on a day bathed in sunlight and still air. This profound dichotomy does not stem from the harshness of external circumstances, but lies concealed in the meaning each soul kindles for its own odyssey. Life has never promised a frictionless voyage. Every mortal must confront failure, loss, the quiet voids of solitude, or those dark hours when all avenues seem irrevocably sealed. Yet, adversity, in its essence, is but a howling gale sweeping across a sail. The wind may cause the hull to violently sway, but only when the vessel loses its compass does a benign breeze morph into an unfathomable catastrophe. Humanity's survival instinct and endurance forever eclipse the self-imposed boundaries of the mind. A mother can keep a tireless vigil by her infant's cradle till dawn, without a single breath of grievance. An athlete will readily drain their life force on the proving grounds to brush against the zenith of glory. An entrepreneur, tasting the bitter ash of countless ruins, will relentlessly rise to forge anew. The driving force anchoring them through the crucible is not merely an innate, ironclad will, but the fact that deep within their hearts resides a reason monumental enough to carry on. When a life's purpose is crystallized, tribulations cease to be bleak barricades, transforming instead into the quintessential forge for harvesting authentic virtues. Conversely, when the guiding beacon is lost, even the most trivial of pressures can materialize into an invisible monolith, crushing the psyche. A fleeting, callous judgment is enough to plague one with restless nights. A minuscule stumble summons a raging storm of self-doubt. Like a withered leaf adrift upon the roaring floodwaters, those devoid of purpose are easily swept away by ephemeral currents of despair. They navigate the years through the sheer inertia of existence, laboring out of mindless habit, oblivious to the truth that life is a miraculous odyssey of discovery, devotion, and ceaseless self-evolution. Life's meaning need not harbor a colossal magnitude, nor capsize the world order. At times, it is as profoundly simple as the yearning to be a nurturing father, a devoted child, a steadfast friend, or merely the endeavor to eclipse one's own limits from the day before. Akin to a towering lighthouse piercing the midnight sea, a life's purpose cannot quell the storm, but its radiant beam guides the vessel towards safe harbor. One who has charted their course shall no longer dread the ferocious swells, for they understand that every trial is tempering their spirit, steering them toward their coveted shores. Instead of yearning for a placid existence devoid of gales, let us architect our own meaning for every mundane, everyday deed. Once the soul discovers its mandate to march forward, the feet will instinctively awaken latent reservoirs of strength to conquer every treacherous rapid. Circumstances may undergo perpetual metamorphoses, yet a resolute life purpose will forever serve as the immovable magnetic north. And when every dawn is greeted with an influx of meaningful intent, you shall realize that this mortal coil has never been a burden too staggering to bear. The most exquisite of gifts is not a pathway strewn with velvet roses, but a heart that remains unflinchingly oriented toward the light. The way to develop self-confidence is to do the thing you fear. William Jennings Bryan. Confidence is not a divine endowment bestowed upon a fortunate few from the cradle, nor can it be spontaneously summoned upon waking from slumber. It is the culmination of a relentless confrontation with primal terrors, of footsteps that, though trembling, resolutely march onward. One does not wait for the advent of strength to dare to act. It is the visceral act of doing that serves as the catalyst forging unyielding resilience. Fear is often merely a colossal shadow, magnified by the boundless amphitheater of our own imagination. From afar, the towering summit appears inviolable. The new threshold feels unbearably heavy, and failure is painted as an abyss of alamgu. Yet, wondrously, the moment we summon the valor to step forth and graze the face of the ordeal, all atmospheric pressure seems to instantly halve, belying the grim tapestries our minds had woven. That which truly imprisons humanity has never been objective adversity, but the bleak scripts of ruin, shame, or societal judgment we construct within the theater of the mind. Countless souls squander their years awaiting the perfect moment, hoarding perceived confidence before daring to begin. They crave the illusion of absolute readiness before raising their voices in the crowd. They seek the eradication of all anxiety before chasing an aspiration. They demand a guaranteed triumph before setting foot on an uncharted path. However, confidence does not operate on such passive doctrines. It is akin to muscle fibers, demanding the crucible of physical exertion to take form. No one attains an Olympian physique without ever hoisting the iron weight. Likewise, self-assurance remains a phantom luxury if we perpetually seek refuge in the tepid warmth of our comfort zones. Every time we boldly traverse a trial, no matter how minute, we lay another formidable brick in the fortress of trust we build in our own inner power. Those who harvest greatness have never been entirely immune to the venom of fear. They, too, have tasted anxiety, drowned in self-doubt, and stared into the humiliating face of defeat. The definitive dichotomy lies in their refusal to let terror seize the helm of their existence. They embrace the frantic drumming of their chest, the faint tremor in their hands, and press onward with unyielding resolve. They hold the profound understanding that courage is not the sheer absence of fear, but the sovereign choice to act even as dread walks closely by their side. With each triumph over their cowardly ego, they stretch the horizons of their very being, shattering what they once falsely believed to be their absolute zenith. Envision the silhouette of a fledgling eagle standing for the first time at the precipice of a jagged crag. The wind howls relentlessly, a yawning void stretches before it, and its wings are still tender and unpracticed. Were it to hesitate, waiting for the phobia of flight to wholly evaporate, it would likely spend its entire existence confined to the nest, forever a stranger to the boundless liberty of the open skies. Only by bravely plunging into the unfathomable abyss can its wings learn to harness the turbulent drafts and elevate its spirit into the heavens. So it is with humanity. The very arduous ordeals that make us tremble are the most fertile soil for cultivating grit, wisdom, and profound maturity. If today you find yourself confronting a challenge that instills trepidation, I implore you, do not hastily turn your back and flee. Who is to say that behind that veil of apprehension lies an abyss of failure? Perhaps it conceals a fiercely resilient, empowered iteration of yourself, just waiting to be awakened. Every intrepid step causes terror to constrict, yielding ground to an ever-swelling tide of self-belief, so that one day, gazing back upon the path traversed, you will realize the most magnificent treasure was not the complete eradication of fear, but the mastery of walking alongside it and ultimately transcending it. It is precisely from those initial, trembling footfalls that a confident, unwavering, and eternally hopeful entity is truly birthed into existence. Do the difficult things while they are easy, and do the great things while they are small. A journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. Lao Tzu. There is a subtly flawed paradigm that ensnares many, the perpetual agonizing wait for an absolutely flawless constellation of time to begin. They convince themselves that only when they have amassed vast fortunes, seasoned their expertise, secured abundant time, or forged unshakable confidence will they embark upon their grand ambitions. However, reality dictates that monumental achievements are not forged from sporadic, serendipitous leaps of faith, but are meticulously sculpted by countless microscopic steps, executed with relentless tenacity at the precise moment. In the theater of life, no tribulation spontaneously dissipates or simplifies itself by the mere grace of procrastination. A parasitic weed, if uprooted the moment it pierces the topsoil, requires but the pressure of a single finger. Yet, if permitted to bury its roots deep and choke the entire garden, its eradication will exact an exorbitant toll in blood, sweat, and time. The mundane hurdles of our daily lives bow to the very same doctrine. A toxic habit begins as nothing more than a seemingly innocuous choice, but calcifying over the years, it morphs into an invisible chain, shackling your destiny. A petty discord, if starved of dialogue, will slowly crystallize into a glacier of icy estrangement. An opportunity rebuffed today may well be a heavy iron door forever bolted shut by tomorrow. The wise do not wait for the inferno to consume the skies before frantically seeking water. They proactively extinguish the threat when it is but a smoldering ember. Magnificent laurels are rarely crowned in a single, fleeting instance of glory. They mirror the millennial oak, piercing the heavens from a frail seed buried in the deep loam. Gazing upon that crude seed, none could conjure the sprawling canopy of a future forest, yet it is the unwavering devotion to daily nourishment that transfigures the mundane into the miraculous. Every page you turn today, every skill you painstakingly hone, every righteous choice you make, no matter how profoundly microscopic, is silently sculpting the sheer magnitude of your future stature. Existence, at its core, is the relentless compounding of mundane, repetitive actions, not a series of explosive, transient outbursts. Every voyage of 10,000 leagues must be birthed by an inaugural step, and that very step often harbors the most grueling of tribulations, not because it demands Herculean physical prowess, but because it compels us to vanquish the gravitational pull of stagnation, to conquer the nebulous fog of fear, and silence the whispering demons of doubt within our minds. Legions fail to touch the finish line, not for a lack of inherent capability, but because they stand paralyzed at the starting line, overly consumed by the harrowing distance that lies ahead. Conversely, the triumphant choose to funnel the entirety of their essence into the singular step immediately before them. They possess the wisdom that no mortal scales, a towering peak in a single, gravity-defying bound, but any soul can breach the summit if they forge ahead with unyielding daily persistence. The grand architecture of a life runs parallel to the raising of a citadel. None can mortar the final, crowning stone without first laying the humble bedrock. Each isolated brick appears deeply insignificant and trivial, yet bereft of even a single one, the impregnable fortress would forever remain incomplete. Wisdom, legacy, triumph, and authentic euphoria are cultivated through this exact continuum of endurance. They do not materialize from the ether of random miracles, but are the offspring of a lineage of righteous choices, sustained with ritualistic devotion, day after day. Thus, I beseech you, cease your vigil for a utopian backdrop before daring to stride forth. Dismantle your trials while they still reside within the realm of your dominion. Nurture your grandiose ambitions with the blood of small, pragmatic deeds executed today. Every forward motion, however glacial, drags you infinitesimally closer to the ultimate destination of your existence. Upon reflecting on the ashes of the path behind you, you will profoundly grasp that the essence of a magnificent odyssey is not found in supernatural leaps, shrouded in blind luck, but in the unassailable resolve to march ceaselessly into the horizon. And the silent, grueling endeavors undertaken in the shadows today will crystallize into the most impenetrable pedestal for the radiant conquests of your tomorrow. When something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk. In the stark theater of reality, the vast majority of us are only primed to strike when the specter of absolute victory is visibly clutched in our palms. We harbor an innate obsession to weigh and measure the calculus of risk, obsessing over profit and loss, and only electing to move when the impending path masquerades as perfectly secure. Yet, the grand chronicles of the Titans are penned by an entirely alien doctrine. They do not plunge into the abyss because triumph is a foregone conclusion, but rather they ignite their crusade because the sheer weight of what they seek dwarfs the creeping terror of defeat by an astronomical margin. We are shackled by the habit of dissecting the world through the myopic lens of visible probability, yet the most sacred treasures of this life rarely arrive tethered to a contract of safety. No mortal can glean utter certainty of victory when breathing life into a new empire. No soul can swear an oath that love will eternally weather the ravages of time. And none dare guarantee that the blood and sweat spilled today will reap a just harvest on the morrow. Should we only dare to move when the end game is hermetically sealed, we would be forever trapped in purgatory, too petrified to love, too terrified to dream, and devoid of the sheer audacity to rewrite our own destinies. The most monumental gateways of destiny only swing open for those with the spine to step forward, even when the void behind those doors remains shrouded in the blinding fog of uncertainty. The phobia of failure frequently unleashes a devastation far more cataclysmic than the actual ruin itself. The human mind possesses a primal bent to hyperinflate peril while shrinking our own sovereignty. It relentlessly besieges us with whispers of doubt. What if I fall? What if the world points and laughs? What if all this blood and sweat amounts to dust? Yet, tragically rare is the moment we dare to interrogate the universe with an ascending light. What if I conquer? What if this is the very fulcrum upon which my entire existence turns? It is this phantom armada of toxic thoughts that incarcerates countless souls within the suffocating walls of comfort, only for them to glance back, decades later, haunted by the bitter ghosts of belated regret, lamenting that they lacked the fire to try, even just once. Conjure the image of an alpinist standing before a summit cloaked in impenetrable mist. He is entirely blind to the winding treachery of the path ahead, nor can he possess a shred of certainty that he will ultimately subjugate the peak. But if that monolith embodies the dreams, the faith, and the profound meaning of his very life, then every agonizing step upward is infinitely worthy of the sacrifice. For the elemental worth of an odyssey is never exclusively anchored to the final moment of arrival, but forged in the blistering courage to stride forth for the ideals we hold sacred. A fragile seed cannot prophesize whether it shall rise into an ancient titan of the forest or be violently washed away by the flash floods of the season's first monsoon. Nevertheless, it silently fractures its shell, claws its roots deep into the soil, and surges upward, craving the golden embrace of the sun. This is the absolute, unadulterated quintessence of life: to flourish upon the altar of hope, not merely exist under the illusion of guaranteed safety. The legendary architects who have bent the arc of world history forever operate by this very ethos. They violently refuse to allow sterile mathematics and probabilities to dictate the fire of their ideals. They comprehend that when the crusade is sufficiently majestic, every drop of blood sacrificed holds profound intrinsic value, even if the final curtain falls on an unforeseen tragedy. A fleeting defeat merely robs us of a singular, isolated opportunity, but a chronic paralysis of hesitation can ruthlessly plunder the entirety of a meaningful existence. Those tethered to the whims of probability will forever chase the hollow phantom of harmless safety, while those who bleed for an ideal will perpetually navigate toward the shores of authentic value and intrinsic purpose will forever generate an inexhaustible nuclear core of endurance infinitely more resilient than any external armor of guarantee. If today you find yourself perched upon the precipice of an epoch-defining decision and the deafening roar of your heart relentless urges you on, I beg you, do not remain fixated on the sterile success rates inked on paper. Interrogate your own soul. Is this destiny of sufficient magnitude to demand the unyielding sacrifice of your time, your marrow, and your iron will? If the echoing answer from the abyss of your chest is yes, then step forward with unflinching defiance, for it is exclusively those who dare to strike when the odds are at their absolute most fragile, who have forged the very miracles that a cynical world once dismissed as utterly impossible. Success does not invariably bestow its grace upon those hoarding the most strategic advantages, but rather it hunts down those who vehemently refuse to surrender the most precious fire within their hearts. In order to succeed, we must first believe that we can. Nikos Kazantzakis. Every monumental triumph in the sprawling annals of human history has been ignited by an element seemingly ethereal, yet unimaginably formidable in its power: belief. Long before an unbreakable bridge of steel was forged to unite two exiled shores, someone, somewhere, had to fiercely believe that the gaping chasm could be vanquished. Long before a gallant vessel boldly cleaved through the roaring deep, a soul had to hold the conviction that beyond the edge of the horizon lay not the abyss of obliteration, and before a single, solitary dream could ever be dragged into the light of reality, mortal man had to possess the audacity to believe in their own godlike capacity to bend the impossible to their will. This radical self-belief is the primordial key that unseals the great gates of triumph. If, at the very precipice of the starting line, you shackle your psyche with the verdict that you cannot, the brain instantaneously executes an override, paralyzing all faculties searching for a solution. It will breed nothing but barricades, grotesquely inflating objective hardships and twisting every microscopic bump into a beautifully logical excuse to surrender. Conversely, when you ferociously grip the conviction that you can learn, adapt, and overcome, your intellect involuntarily shifts into an entirely unprecedented stratagem of operation. It begins a predatory hunt for opportunity, excavating deeply buried veins of potential, and stands as an immovable monolith against the fleeting winds of defeat. Though faith does not magically sever the length of the road, it injects a torrential reservoir of energy, demanding the legs to march with unkillable endurance. It is a profound tragedy that armies of men willingly cage the boundless magnitude of their own lives. Long before destiny even has the privilege of testing their mettle, they prematurely slaughter their ambitions over a singular, venomous critique. They flee from the crucible of evolution over a few early, bloody, scraped knees, or they gracefully accept the agonizingly dull sedation of their comfort zones, all because they have defaulted to the toxic premise that they are fundamentally inadequate. The most impregnable fortresses that block the ascent of mankind are not forged from cold, brutal masonry. They are erected from the insidious shadows of doubt, lurking deep within the subconscious. When we endlessly parrot self-flagellating prophecies of our own weakness or unworthiness, we unwittingly conjure those very cognitive chains into our undeniable reality. Every mortal soul gravitates toward manifesting the absolute sum of what they truly believe themselves to be. Recall once more the imagery of a microscopic seed buried alive in the suffocating darkness of the soil. It is hopelessly encased by crushing pressure, jagged rocks, and an agonizingly silent isolation. Were that frail seed to believe that the canopy above offered nothing but an inescapable doom, it would lay dormant, surrendering to rot and the merciless decay of time. Yet, a ferocious, primal mandate of survival compels it to believe that beyond the suffocating crust lies a kingdom of radiant warmth. It is this raw, unadulterated conviction that provokes it to drive its roots even deeper into the abyss and violently thrust its spire upward, shattering the arid earth, lunging toward the blazing glory of the sun. Humanity is no different. Triumph does not arrive because our chosen path was paved in silk, but because we harness enough feral belief to march onward, even when the victory remains completely invisible to the naked eye. But let this core doctrine be absolute. Authentic belief is violently divorced from the delusions of fantasy. Placing absolute faith in oneself is not an exercise in hallucinatory hubris, a lie whispering that you shall harvest glory without spilling the requisite blood, sweat, and agony. It is the ironclad conviction that, despite currently bleeding from a lack of experience, despite a horizon that guarantees 1,000 brutal falls, we still wield the divine capacity to learn, to adapt, and to endlessly rise as a superior force after every cataclysm. The truly audacious warrior is not one who has evaded all error, but one who views absolute failure as merely a mandatory, brutal chapter in the curriculum of conquest. They fiercely refuse to let defeat dictate the worth of their soul, instead weaponizing it as priceless intelligence that propels them violently closer to the shores of victory. If you possess a burning hunger to utterly transfigure your existence, commence by ruthlessly reprogramming what you fundamentally believe about yourself. Do not allow the ghosts of nebulous fears or the self-imposed cages of your past to serve as the architects of your unfolding future. Cultivate a belief so terrifyingly potent that it alchemizes all doubt into raw kinetic action, mutates brutal tribulations into priceless mastery, and summons ethereal dreams into a breathing, vivid reality. For every single earth-shattering odyssey in this world was ignited by a profoundly simple, yet infinitely omnipotent thought. I can do this, when unshakable belief is fused in perfect alchemy with relentless endurance and fierce, pragmatic daily action. The impossibilities of yesterday will inevitably bleed into the realities of today, and triumph will no longer remain some distant, mythological mirage, but the absolute, undeniable harvest of an iron spirit that absolutely refused to ever kneel before the storm.